Hey everyone, Dinosaur MTG here because I am a dinosaur when it comes to magic. I wanted to take some time to tell a fun story when my friends and I bought a crazy collection of magic cards back in the early 2000s. This happened when I was stationed in Alaska in the Air Force. And if you want more stories on that, check out my other video, Brush with Greatness, My Time with Sheldon Menery. A coworker of mine one day decided he wanted to sell his entire collection. Before transferring to Alaska, he was stationed in Greenland, and as he told it, all there was to do up there for him was play Magic, so that's what he did, and just bought boxes and boxes and packs and singles and just everything. When he transferred to Alaska, he brought his massive collection with him. Well, he had gotten busy, gotten married, been promoted, all that stuff along the way. So he didn't have, and he had a lot more responsibilities, so he couldn't devote time to Magic like he wanted. He knew I played and one day came up to me and offered to sell his collection. He gave me the asking price and a few days to think about it before he took his collection to Bosco's, the LGS up there. He wanted $1,200 for what he described as thousands of cards in boxes and binders. He also had an Alpha Black Lotus. Yes, an Alpha Black Lotus that he kept separate from the rest of his collection in a safe. Want to know how much he wanted for that Lotus? $400. $400 for an Alpha Black Lotus. Granted, this was 2002, and that was actually how much it was going for according to Scry. So I didn't have $1,600. Even though back then I had a lot less debt and bills and was able to regularly buy whole booster boxes. I immediately told my roommate that I played Magic with. We decided that $1,200 plus $4 for the Lotus was still a little steep for the two of us, so we got another one of our friends that played Magic. Well, he occasionally played Magic. He mostly collected. So we agreed to split it 3 ways, each putting in $400, and I would pay a separate $400 for the Lotus. So the day came to pick this collection up. When we got to my coworker's house, we were greeted with a living room full of cards. He didn't have just thousands. He had tens of thousands. He had a knee-high stack of 5,000 count boxes, at least a dozen 1-inch binders all filled, plastic deck cubes and boxes and other assorted storage material, and of course, the Alpha Lotus. We took a quick look through it all with basically a, wow, okay. Handed him 2 checks of $400 and a third check, mine, for $800. And started loading up the car. To say we packed my car up was an understatement. My back seat and trunk were full, and my roommate in the passenger seat was buried under binders. Our other friend waited back at the dorm. Luckily we all lived on base, so the trip was short and we didn't have to explain all this at the gate. Once we got everything unloaded into our dorm rooms, we had to decide how we were going to divvy up this collection, and so the work began. Weekends mainly, sometime on the weekdays, we just took over the day room of our dorm, carrying in a couple boxes or a few binders or cubes at a time, and just went to work to try to, a little at a time, each pulling cards for ourselves as we saw them. There were plenty to go around, so there was no fighting over 1 or 2 of this and that. The collection was vast and diverse. It went all the way back to unlimited, with maybe a few beta in there. And it ended, I think, around Urza's block. There was tons of rares, uncommons, of varying value, lots of bulk, lots of other good stuff. We made 2 exceptions as we were sorting. 2 rules that we established, because one, we found a ton of Birds of Paradise, which at the time was one of the hottest cards. We agreed to set aside any birds that we found. The same went for dragons, especially Shivan Dragon, which is also a pretty hot card at the time, surprisingly. My roommate was a big dragon guy and wanted all the best dragons and as many Shivans as we saw fair. So we set those aside, and as we divvied up the rest. A lot of those weekend sort sessions went into the wee hours. What we would do, at least on the weekends, our dining hall offered an 11:30 p.m. meal, because our base had a lot of pilots on it, and the 11:30 p.m. meal was like their breakfast. We'd go out and get a hearty breakfast meal and come back and sort cards. It took us about a month to 100% go through it all and settle everyone's shares, and also sell off the rest of the bulk that none of us really needed or wanted. It was crazy. As for the Alpha Lotus, I actually traded it for an unlimited Lotus and Mox. I forgot which one of the Moxes I got. Maybe it was an Emerald. Maybe it was a Ruby. But I still look back at that moment in awe, how I was able to do that, and how nowadays an Alpha Lotus can basically buy you a small house. So that was a fun story, buying a crazy collection of Magic. If you like this story, give it a like. If you want to hear more fun stuff like this, subscribe, comment, do all the things. Until then, keep playing Magic the way Richard Garfield intended.